have a surprising Texans update to talk about today. It's April, draft season is in full effect, and the Texans need a wide receiver. We're going to talk about what could be the perfect fit in terms of reports revealing a new receiver that the Texans could go after, as well as my top 5 kind of options for you guys, fans, to look out for in terms of the Texans potentially drafting them, which makes sense for the team, right? If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Texans Digest. We are growing rapidly. I want to try and hit 1,000 subscribers by next Monday. It is Wednesday. We could very well do it. So again, appreciate all the support. If anybody can do it, it's the Texans community. Appreciate all the support. And comment down below, what would be the perfect fit in your opinion for the Texans at wide receiver? Got a lot to cover today, but Jalen Noel is the new name on the rise. He's got a lot of potential. A beautiful route runner from Iowa State, kind of that complimentary wideout to Jaden Higgins, who had a good year as well, but a very good prospect, a top 50 lock in terms of some people talking about him. He ran a 4.39 40 at the combine, and I know the combine stats kind of, he bumped his draft stock up, and 40 time, whether it's a 4.45, a 4.39, it doesn't tell too much, but it is also nice to know that he's a fast, speedy, route running kind of wide receiver. Lightning speed, run after catch, slippery after the tackles. That's kind of what the Texans need as a number 2 wide receiver. Somebody who can run good routes, catch the ball, complement Nico Collins with Christian Kirk in the slot. And you also have a couple more depth pieces in Braxton Berrios and Justin Watson if there were any potential things to go wrong in terms of what happened last year. You had players get hurt. Nico Collins went down with a hamstring for 4 games. We all know what happened to Tank Dell. That injury was not good, and we lost Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs, happy he's gone, but they traded for Christian Kirk. His salary is almost nothing. So the Texans are doing well. The question really is, who do you go after at wide receiver? Because I love Jalen Noel. It's definitely something to look out for in terms of what he did last year. 80 catches, almost 1,200 yards. He's also a punt returner, so don't sleep on that aspect of his game. In terms of what we're looking for, I don't know if he's going to be available in the round 2 selection. And here's the thing. After the Tyler Warren video, it's evident to me that people want us to draft a big target in the first round. And I feel like every fan wants the Texans to go after a big name, a good wide receiver, somebody that will fit the mold. Especially because there's not a lot of depth at wide receiver for this team. You have Christian Kirk, who people are worried about can very well be brittle, and his bones, we don't know if he's going to get hurt or not, but definitely want to have another option. So Jalen Noel, very good prospect, and I'm fearful that he might not be there in the second round, and it's just a matter of what do the Texans want to go with, because you could very well have a Matthew Golden or a Emeka Egbuka fall at 25, but is that likely? I'm seeing more and more teams take Kelvin Banks earlier and earlier. The draft is so crazy with possibilities, but looking at it, here's the other prospects we could be looking at. For the first round, it's Egbuka and it's Golden. Those two are kind of the mold as to the Texans have met with Golden. They've talked to Egbuka. I feel like Egbuka, if he is there, if Emeka Egbuka is there at 25, there is no reason the Texans should pass on him. Now, I don't think he will be there. You have other teams that need wide receiver very badly. The Broncos, other teams in front of you, especially 25 picks worth. I know there's a lot of talent, so somebody might slip through the cracks. If Luther Burden's available, no, I do not want him. But even in the second round, you might have a good enough option in a Jalen Royals. So he's a good route runner as well, 4.42 40-yard dash, as well as in general, you have a lot more options. Tez Johnson, one of my personal favorites. Again, a 4.51 40-yard dash. People are so just frantic about, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So Tez Johnson was actually supposed to be a top 2 round pick. Like, he was supposed to be in that back half of the second round before the combine, and he ran a 4.51 40, and everyone's like, I don't know, a 5'10 wide receiver running a 4.5. Yes, I do understand that it's not a good number, but does the 40 time actually tell you how they play on the field? No. And I think Tez Johnson is that perfect kind of jump ball wide receiver that can complement Nico Collins in a T. Higgins kind of role right? You have your number one wide receiver in Nico. He developed phenomenally last year. And when you had the playoffs come around and John Mechie is fumbling the ball on the first drive of the game against the Chargers, you almost need to draft a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds. I don't know if that's first round because they could be adamant about getting a tackle to replace for the future. You could draft somebody 3rd or 4th round who's available, who's not bad. The Texans could even trade back altogether. So there's still a lot of options that they can go for, and I'm not too sure as to who they're going to get. But all I know is that they can play around with the options. If you do have a Matthew Golden or an Emeka Egbuka around for 25, why not take him? Because then in the 2nd round, you can kind of fill around with Villanueva as a guard selection. I just did a mock, but for the Texans at least, they have options. There's definitely some tackles and guards that you can go after in round 2 and 3 and play those guys later in the season when you have veteran tackles already filling the void. So maybe, just maybe, we could see Nick Caserio go after a wide receiver. The news is that Noel may very be one of the most overlooked wide receivers in this year's draft, and I really don't hate it. It's really not a bad idea, and I wouldn't be surprised. Texans, maybe they take a tackle first round, but they could trade up for that receiver that they want. I would be surprised if any of the top receivers in the first round are available that they want, but I feel like that's the thing with Nick Caserio. He's going to feel it out. It's the whole process of the draft. There's depth at a lot of positions. Guard might not be easy to come by, but you could very well be sitting at 25, and your options are Josh Simmons, Gray Zabel, and Luther Burden, and you might just say, hey, let's trade back to 34 and draft a receiver, or you just take your guy there. There's a lot of things you can do. I'm hoping Caserio doesn't reach on anything like they did with Kenyon Green a few years back. If you guys know how that worked out, it was not good, but they did get CJ Carter-Johnson, so that's not terrible. But the idea for people looking at this right now, Houston will most likely go offensive line in the first round, and I don't disagree, but I feel like if the right player is there, they will draft them. The likelihood they trade up is slim. At least I believe so. They're most likely going to sit pretty at 25 and get what they can. Unless, a McMillan falls or maybe a Buka. But I don't like the idea of taking a Loveland. I don't like the idea of taking a Josh Simmons he's coming off a knee injury. That's pretty significant. So for me, the first round looks Kelvin Banks, Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden. And then if none of those guys are there, a Gray Zabel, because you need a guard that early. I know he's from North Dakota State, so that's kind of the conference that he's playing, and it could be subject to question. However, you have Jalen Noel in the 2nd round. If you don't get one of your Egbuka or Golden, you do have other players to look for in a Tez Johnson, in a Trey Harris from Ole Miss, in a Jalen Royals. And looking at the whole wide receiver list, you don't have too many options late in the draft. Maybe an Xavier Restrepo or somebody else. A Kyle Williams in a little bit of the 3rd round. It really does depend on who's available at what time, because Nick Caserio, as aggressive as a GM as he is, I'm not expecting many trade-ups. He's going to be methodical with his pick selections, and whether it's a trade back or a trade up, I trust that this team's going to be able to get the job done, and a receiver should be taken in the first 2 rounds. Whether that's first round in a Egbuka or Golden, we don't know. It's a matter of who's going to be available at what time, and it's so irritating for me because I kind of just want draft season to be here by now, and I feel like I'm kind of talking in circles, and it can be confusing because it's like, what if this, what if that, and I don't like to play that game. It's difficult to do. But for the Texans' future right now, I love the fact of going after Jalen Noel, an absolute combine monster. I know combine doesn't make it NFL. Just because you're good in the combine doesn't mean you're going to be great panning out in the NFL. But realistically, he's a great player, and I'm a big fan to see what the Texans are going to do. There's a lot of options in which they can go. Those 2-3 rounds are kind of where you're going to see most of those wide receivers come off the board. Look for the Texans to draft one of the following with their 5-6 picks is going to be offensive line, wide receiver, offensive line again. They're probably going to address offensive line, a tackle, and a guard. So that's 2. wide receiver, running back, tight end, and then probably defensive line help or maybe another corner to round out the defense, or even another wide receiver just to stack depth on depth on depth. So a lot to look forward to for the Texans. Jalen Noel, the new perfect fit, if you would, in terms of this new Texans lineup, a very underrated piece, a top 50 selection in terms of what we've looked at from most. So Jalen Noel, I'm a big fan. Texans, wide receiver. Let me know your thoughts. I personally love Ibuka. I know it's a likelihood that he might not be there, but there's so many things the Texans can do. Even a Kyle Williams in the third round. I know people in the comments have said they want to draft somebody earlier rather than later because they most likely need a receiver to start day one, unless you want to go with Justin Watson, which I don't mind, but I'd rather draft a receiver that I know is confident and able to step up, because John Mechie didn't fill that role last year, and you could see Stroud was hesitant in throwing the ball outside of Nico Collins. There was nobody to really step up. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And as always, we're trying to go to 1,000 subscribers. That is the new goal on the channel. So again, thank you. Really do appreciate all the support. I can't ever say it enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next video.